I've got a red belly. Only a little one. Look at his tail. He could strike me from here very easily. He's gonna get me. Why do I keep losing green tree snakes? There we go. Not too bad, little fella. Alright, this guy here, red-bellied black snake, Pseudicus porphyriacus. They're a front-fanged venomous snake and a lapid. They are highly venomous, only about 22nd in the world though. And generally if one bites you, it will not kill you, although I recently got bit. Ended up in hospital under observation for a few days. Didn't have anti-venom because I wasn't in danger of dying, but my arm swelled up like a balloon. Couldn't move. I've still got muscle weakness in this arm from it, so definitely not a nice experience. Don't go mucking around with these guys. One of Australia's highly venomous species. They're a very placid species though. They're not inclined to bite. It's tangled up in this stick. They're generally pretty uninclined to bite, although they will defend themselves, but they're a very shy snake and they always run away rather than confront the danger. Natural predators of these guys would be large birds of prey, feral animals, foxes, and that kind of stuff, feral cats, dingoes in the area where dingoes live, other snakes. So red bellies can be a cannibalistic species, so they will actually eat other members of their own species that are smaller than them. They'll also eat other kinds of snakes like brown snakes, green tree snakes. Like that one that just got away. So these guys, yeah, they're very placid. They're commonly sighted throughout East Coast. Their distribution is the East Coast, parts of Upper Victoria, all the way throughout the coast of New South Wales, up into North Queensland. Along the coast, they love rainforesty habitats, anywhere near creeks. They love creeks, lakes, water bodies, any kind of fresh water source where they can find frogs, because they're primarily frog-eating species. They will also eat other prey items like other snakes. Whoa, that's too close. It's hard with these leafy sticks. You need a good hook. Just broke. Yeah, they're primarily frog eaters. They will eat lizards, snakes, small mammals if they get the chance. So yeah, they live near freshwater sources. This is dangerous. Freshwater sources. They're a very water-loving species. They'll often swim on hot summer days. There you go. Often swim hot summer days. And they're black. They attract heat. They're pretty cold tolerant, but not as much as some. They often come out in wet weather, rainy days, as well as the normal hot summer days. They brumate in winter, except in North Queensland. They attract that heat really well, so they don't often come out in the middle of the day unless they're actually swimming. There are a diurnal snake. This is hard with this leafy branch. Diurnal snake. They grow a lot bigger than this. This guy is quite small. He's only about 1.5 foot long. These guys get up and over 5 foot. They're not a snake to be mucked with. They are a beautiful species, lovely colours, and quite placid. If you see one, leave it alone, it's not going to hurt you, it's going to run away very quick. Very shy snake. They're a ground dwelling species. Normally they don't climb much. He could swing his head around. He could swing his head around and tag me from here. I'm just lucky that they're such a placid species, usually. Wow, what a gorgeous specimen. They're a member of the black snake family. Black snake venom isn't usually highly toxic, but it causes necrosis and it just makes you real sick. But yeah, generally, unless you're weak or a small person or old person, they won't kill you, but yeah, they can cause some significant morbidity. But they don't deserve the bad reputation they have. Everyone hates them for very not true reasons. They're not aggressive. They don't attack people. Then they usually don't kill people, even if they do bite. So they don't deserve their bad reputation. They're a gorgeous snake. Although, not something that everyone should be mucking with. Hey buddy, you're beautiful. Very nice red belly. One of my favourite snake species, found on the east coast. They will also go inland across the Murray River on the Victoria-New South Wales border, but not found in the real outback desert kind of areas. They're an oviparous. They're a live-bearing species, so they don't lay eggs like a lot of snakes. They will give birth to a litter of live young, and if the live young don't get away from that female pretty quick after they give birth, they'll get eaten. So yeah, they are a reasonably common species, but up in the northern parts of their range, because they're such a frog feeder, the cane toads are doing them a lot of trouble, and they're becoming a lot rarer due to getting poisoned by those nasty cane toads, which is nice. This beautiful red belly. There we go. Red belly black snake, catch and release. Beautiful. See him there. Look at him. Look, they calm down quite a bit. They're pretty placid. Not grunting like a brown or a tiger. They don't actually have much red on the actual belly, see? It's on the sides. So it should be called a red-sided black snake. Something got mixed up. But yeah, he's had enough of me and my camera. There we go. Look how fast I go. So here we have a diamond python. This guy here is the diamond python. Their scientific name is Morelia spilota. So they're the nominate subspecies of carpet python. There's many subspecies of carpet python that range almost all throughout Australia, and the diamond python is unique to the southern east coast. So from just south of Newcastle, where we are now, so we're in the northern limit of their range, just south of Newcastle, and then down into Victoria is the area where these guys live, and they live near the coast. They love rainforesty habitats. They're semi-arboreal, so they'll often climb trees as well as being on the ground. They can be diurnal and nocturnal, so sometimes they'll be out in the day basking, and sometimes they'll be out at night to hunt, so they'll just come out whenever they like. They're a python, so they're completely harmless, non-venomous. They're a constrictor, so they asphyxiate their prey. They coil around it and squeeze the air out of it and then swallow it whole. And they've actually got these heat sensing kits on the side of their mouth here to help them detect prey items. They'll feed on small mammals or any mammals of appropriate size like possums. They'll also eat birds and sometimes reptiles. They're a very nice snake. They're a very placid species and uninclined to bite. You can see here he's showing no intention to bite me and he's not too scared. These guys are the most southerly distributed python species in the world, so once they get down to the part of their range, the southern part of their range in Victoria, no other python species in the world goes more south than that. And they're also found at the highest altitude of any other python in the world, often up in mountains. They're a very nice species. Sometimes if people live near bush, they're found in people's yards. They do grow bigger than this. They'll grow up to 2.5 meters long. This guy's not quite that. He'll get a little bit longer, but he'll get quite a bit fatter than this. These guys love warm-butted prey preferably. So you can see how calm he is. They say with a coastal carpet python there's 75% chance it will bite, but with a diamond like this one, 75% chance it won't bite because they're very calm. Now when they get up just north of Newcastle, they'll actually integrate and crossbreed with the coastal carpet python, which is found further up north from north of Port Macquarie. But in that area from Port Macquarie and a bit north of that, down to north of Newcastle, there isn't either pure ones, they're just all crossbreeds between those two subspecies. So any member of the carpet python family can crossbreed, because they're very closely related, different patterns. Very nice species of snake. They're quite often seen by bushwalkers out in the bush cruising around doing their daily activities. They're an egg-laying species, and occasionally, not usually, but occasionally the females have actually been known to coil around their eggs and vibrate and incubate them. But then once they hatch, the little babies there on their own. An interesting thing, the baby diamond pythons actually have patterns of a carpet python until they get to just over a year old, is when they start developing the diamond patterns. Yeah, we'll let this beautiful snake on his way. Very good fun. He's got very strong muscles. Might want to actually go down on the ground. So he's just gonna chill out there now. See how long he is. Alright, so this guy here is the Cunningham skink. Now they're an Agurnia species and they're a colony lizard. So where there's one, there'll be quite a few of them that live in family groups. Now they're a very smart animal because they've actually got an inbreeding avoidance system. Even if they're distant relatives that haven't seen each other in years, these guys can actually tell who to breed with and who not to breed with to avoid inbreeding. So they're very smart animals. They're an omnivorous skink, so they'll eat plant matter as well as insects, snails and spiders. They're rock dwellers, so they'll be living up in the rocks, and then as soon as they get scared, they'll be living up in the rocks. As soon as they get scared, they'll dart in a crack under a bigger rock, and they're very hard to get out for predators. And they've got this spiny tail like most members of the family, and what that does, it helps lodge them in, and they'll puff themselves up so they actually kind of get stuck in there, and then if the predator tries to grab that too, it gets a mouthful of spikes. Yeah, predators would be birds, bigger snakes, goannas, bigger lizards, foxes, cats, dingoes. Most things will eat them that are carnivorous. They're only a reasonably small little skink, so they've got to watch out. This is about adult size, although some localities get bigger than others. This one's a good size for this area, but they've got quite a wide distribution over eastern Australia. They've got a large distribution over eastern Australia, so in different localities they look a lot different and they grow to different sizes. This is one of the smaller localities right here around the Hawkesbury region. There's sandstone form, so they've got these nice patterns, and that helps them blend in with their rocks, and they're hard to pick out. They're a sun-loving species, so you'll often see them out in the morning sun basking. There's usually a few babies around where there's adults. Around here there's an adult pair, which is one of them, and then there's a few babies. You can see they're a very nice animal. Cunningham skink. So they're pretty hard to get out of rocks, but if you know the tricks, you can get them out. So what you've got to do is tickle them, either on the neck or the back legs. They actually get ticklish, and it makes them wriggle out, and then you can grab them. So that's a good little trick to know if you're trying to catch one. They're pretty common in the right areas, but you don't see them all over the place. They'll range through Sydney, through Armidale and all of those places. Anywhere where there's a lot of rocks and cliffs, rocky edges, there should be these guys, as long as the environment's right. There he is. So they've got this orange belly. That's characteristic of most of the forms. They've always got the orange belly, and then they can have different patterns up here. Usually different shades of blacks, browns or greys, and with white spots. Hey, little buddy. They don't have much of a bite. Out in the open, they're not too fast. They're actually not too fast at all on the ground, but when they're in the rocks, they're pretty quick at darting into the rocks at short speeds. So they're pretty good at avoiding all the predators. They're a nice little animal. Aren't you, buddy? Alright, let's